Welcome to the How to Find and Keep a Gay Man podcast. I'm Matt Bays, your host, with Matt Heincker, your co-host. And we're here to provide bitchy wisdom for the gay man looking for love. There are a lot of gay men out there looking for a meaningful love experience, and we are here to help. You can follow How to Find and Keep a Gay Man on Instagram and TikTok, where you'll find all sorts of bitchy wisdom about what it's going to take to find and keep a gay man. Welcome. We're glad you're here.
Yeah, great. Yes. Is this your little office space down off the guest room?
It is.
Oh, no, you're in a new place now. I forget.
We're down here in the city, so you can hear all kind of riffraff happening outside.
Oh, really?
Always. Yeah.
That's a new thing for you.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I'm used to it now, but Chris has been working in here most of the time. And there is one woman in particular that stands on the street of a Catholic church across the street. She just screams. She just does a whole lot of screaming.
Wow, that's crazy.
I know. It's kind of sad. All right. So welcome to How to Find and Keep a Gay Man, the podcast. And we're, of course, available on social media, on TikTok and on Instagram. And this is a little offshoot of that, this podcast that we wanted to do. I'm Matt Bays, and that over there is Matt Heincker. And we are going to spend some time just talking about what we really care about, what we've come to care about since we've come out as gay men. You want to introduce ourselves first?
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to let you go first.
So I feel like when I tell my story, I tell people I think it's painfully cliche. I'm the pastor's kid of a very conservative evangelical minister and wife, few generations in. So I grew up in a super religious environment. And really, I say brainwashed by the cult, but I really kind of grew up with all these messages that being gay was not only not good, it was a full-blown sin and I was going to hell and all that. So it really kind of led me down a path where I made major life decisions completely out of integrity with myself. In my late 20s, I finally broke down and got married, had some children. And by my late 30s, I was mentally ill. My life was falling apart. So I finally, in my late 30s, came out, and the last several years since that has been quite a journey. I've learned a lot, and now I'm pleased to be engaged, be married with a lovely man, and we've got a blended family, and my life is completely different, and I feel like a completely different person.
That's it. You did that so good. And I feel like I can just say same. Except 10 years later.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So same. I grew up with the same kind of religious upbringing, super conservative. It wasn't an option to be gay until it was, and was married for 23 years, 2 kids. And the way it went for me is I had been fine with people being gay for a long time, but I'd already made that decision to be married. And so I just thought I was just going to stick it through. And some things happened. In particular, my sister, who I was very close to, passed away in 2016 of metastatic breast cancer. And it was also, sounds cliche, one of those moments where you think life is short. I don't have to live this way. And so I'm not going to. And so it was quite a journey to get there, but coming out, and I spent some time in one relationship and then did some dating apps, all that kind of stuff, and found somebody, my husband, Chris. We were married a little over a year ago, and I'm happier than I've ever been in my life. And so I guess we could say, Matt, I feel like we're not experts here. We've just had some experience. And I think because of our similar path, have sort of a different take on maybe what it looks like to find and keep a gay man, because we were both thrust into this gay community
overnight.
Right. And so we kind of approached it, I think, having had kids and been married for such a long time, I think we approached it differently, or saw ourselves approaching it differently than what a lot of people in the gay community seem to be doing. Not that it was wrong, but we are going to be real honest on this. podcast about what it takes to find someone, not only find them, but to keep them. And I'll just say this, and this is where all of this comes out of. When I got married, I posted on TikTok a video of Chris and our wedding, talking about it or whatever. It was the only video I've had on TikTok that went viral. And I had over 1,000 comments. And in the comments, there was a consistent theme of people who were basically saying, I'm frustrated, that I haven't found this yet. I don't believe this exists. True love is bullshit. I don't believe in soulmates, or I had this once, but then he cheated on me. There were all of these messages. And on the Enneagram, I'm a 2. I'm a helper. That's that's my personality profile. So I love to help. And I couldn't stop thinking about that because I thought, I don't think it has to be that complicated. Yeah. I really don't. And I do think that there are some things that we have control over that we might not even realize.
Totally agree. Absolutely. Yeah.
So this thing exists solely we're going to talk about different things that we believe can get people closer to being able to find and keep a gay man. I'm going to say find and keep a gay man. And guess what? If you take the F and the K and put them together, like I often do, find and keep with the and in the middle, it just looks like fuck.
It does. How nice. How appropriate. No, I mean, we've talked a lot about it. I mean, I feel like when we look around at our friends, I'm blessed now to have a gay community of friends around me. It's a completely different life, but a consistent theme is either dissatisfaction with relationships or dating, or people that are perpetually single and very stuck for years at a time. And I think there's a lot of jaded mindsets around just relationships in general, in our community. And to your point, to our point, and, doing this podcast, I think there's way more in our control than we realize. And so it's our job in discussing this to try to talk about what some of those things might practically be.
So let me ask you, what was the biggest surprise to you when you hopped into the LGBTQ plus community?
I'd say a couple of things. I'd say a top 3. I'd say number 1, is naive as it might sound, I could not believe how sex focused it was. So the apps are not to go on a date, they're to hook up. The primary goal in most gay connections is to have sex as soon as possible. That surprised me. I think the other thing is, obviously you want to look your best when you're dating, and obviously gay men are visual creatures, but the currency that your looks are in our community, to a degree that I had no idea, was kind of jarring to understand. That was just a huge part of every conversation when I met somebody, looks in how fit or beautiful you are, how young you look, all that kind of stuff. And I'd say number 3, I was completely shocked. For me, I was like, oh God, I finally get to be gay. I finally get to have gay friends. I finally get to go to gay bars and be in gay spaces. Yeah, great. But I had no idea that those were not necessarily safe spaces. When you're with your community, they are not necessarily coming together to lift each other up. It can be a really catty, rough place. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a bitch will read you, and that's her dessert. Like, she had fun, and I didn't understand that we weren't all here to lift each other up and create safe space. Really quite the opposite. And so I had to get some thick skin real quick and kind of adjust my expectations and adjust what I was looking for, in regards to friendships within it. So,
yeah. That's one of the things that I noticed initially too, is I was there to make friends and just hang with people. Like, we're all in the same spot, and I was very surprised by that because I didn't feel this welcoming. There were a few older people that seemed like they were more emotionally mature, but I was shocked by the guys that were my age, that it felt like many of them hadn't done their work. It just was not lovely there in Indianapolis. I was in Indianapolis at the time and now living in Cincinnati. You're still in the Indy area.
I'm still in Indy. And I would echo that for my number 4. We talked about this. If you're over 30 and you're gay, you've been through some shit. Okay. And these people have dealt with their shit. They've dealt with their whatever and move forward, come out of that ready to be in a relationship, capable of emotional intimacy, capable of just being present for somebody, or they haven't. And they're still stuck. And those people are not the best options to be in relationships with.
And that's part of what we're going to talk about. And I think that we have to acknowledge that if something's not working, we have to try something else. So the answer cannot be that all gay men are just assholes.
Exactly.
That just can't be the answer.
No,
absolutely not. We really have to. I really live by the mantra, if I'm not the problem, then there is no solution. So I wasn't in for talking about how awful everything is and this will just never work out, because my ass wanted to be with somebody, literally. I wanted to I wanted to find somebody, and I was like, I was going to make that happen. So one of the things that you mentioned to me, I heard you say the phrase one, put your back into it. Yeah. And I've adopted that for this particular thing. Like, people go looking for jobs, or they go 4 years to school to build their career. They hire consultants, hire life coaches, therapists, all the shit, right, to move themselves forward. Mm-hmm. But my God, are we precious on dating apps and meeting people? It's like we want love to happen like that. Yeah. Yeah. And not work for it. And it takes work. And it's the kind of work that's hard, because eventually it's going to lead you back to yourself, of asking yourself questions about, what is it in here that needs to change in order for me to get the things that I want? Absolutely. And my belief is we are worthy of love. We are worthy of a great, meaningful love experience. And I think it's out there, but getting there is the hard part, and opening ourselves to maybe live in a different way. So listen, we just need to say this right out of the gate. If you have no interest in leaving the hookup life behind, I'm not saying a hookup is a bad thing. I'm saying if that is it for you, this isn't for you. This is for somebody who's like, I'm sick of that. I'm tired of that just being it. I want to find someone. I want to settle down. I want to have a good life together, not in the heteronormative way. It doesn't have to be, I'm adopting 2 kids from Asia,
but I want something real and I'm ready for it. Absolutely.
Yeah. And what's it going to take to get there? Mm-hmm. So we're going to explore all of that.
Absolutely. Goody. And how are you getting in your own way? Because we all do, to varying degrees and in different areas. And I think that's one of the really fun things about this podcast that we're going to uncover.
So maybe we can talk about how we were getting in our own way.
Okay.
Let's go there.
I think for me, one thing that, as you and I talked, and we kind of really figured out how we were going to go about this, I think it really is important to understand what it is that you're looking for. So what are your non-negotiables? What are things in a person that are really important beyond looks, beyond money, whatever, and so to get clarity on that. And I think for me, it took me a while to really be healthy enough to want to be in a relationship myself. But once I was, what kind of person did I want to be with? Of course you want to be attracted to them, but what are the things that are really important to you? And, I had to get clarity on that for me to look with a little bit more of it, a little more intention, I think. Yeah. What would you say?
One of the things that I was stuck in is, I was in a marriage for a straight heterosexual. I was never straight, but a heterosexual marriage for a long time. And outside of the fact that it was, a mixed orientation marriage that did not work, it wasn't a good pairing. Yeah. Okay. So what often happens, and what happened to me, was I came out of that relationship and I was looking for somebody the complete opposite, and letting the pendulum swing all the way the other way. So I was finding people, again, that weren't right for me, people that were more happy-go-lucky and free-spirited, which I am, and there was a lot about that didn't work for me. There was a certain, when you talk non-negotiables, that's a big thing for me. Good pairing is everything. So the idea that marriage is the most difficult thing I've ever done, I think that adage is bullshit. Yeah. I think we just have to say it's not supposed to be. Like best friendships, you and I are very good friends. Mm-hmm. We don't have this complicated friendship. No. Right? Because we steer clear of people like that. It doesn't even make them bad. It's just Not a
Totally.
friendship we should have. Right.
Yeah.
So marriage is not supposed to be the most difficult thing that you've ever done in your life. And I think a lot of times we hear that from people who have really difficult marriages. I said that,
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So I needed to figure out what my non-negotiables were. Non-negotiables are about us being able to be our best self for ourselves and for them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Some of that stuff is common sense, but for some reason, we'll just take whoever comes along.
Yeah.
And we get involved with them so quick that we start loving them. This happened to me.
Yeah.
I got involved with somebody that did not meet my non-negotiables. I fell in love. And my God, that was a 3-year relationship that literally broke my heart. You know all about it. We'll
Journey in the wilderness through that, honey. Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah.
I was in a few relationships that same deal. I mean, there's incredible attraction. They're fun, but the non-negotiables are definitely not there. And you kind of overlook it because you're, still finding your way still, for whatever reason, but you can waste a lot of time and it can be painful, and I think it's funny you talk about pairings. Ty and I always joke that, man, heteros have hard marriages because being married to a woman would be crazy, or for a woman to be married to a man is crazy. They're so different. The bridge that they have to build to be in tune. Yikes. It's intense. I feel like we have an advantage as men. We have a lot in common already. So I feel like inevitably, if you're with somebody that's wired really good, like wired for you, you're going to have less of a struggle. You're not going to fight over TV shows. It's not going to be as hard as it is for heteros if you're with a guy that's really good for you.
Yeah. We were at Target yesterday and I saw this couple standing together. They were talking about something or whatever. This sounds so shitty, but whatever. And I looked at Chris and I was like, that looks awful to me. He's like, because you're gay. And I was like, I know, but just the idea, I want to be with a man. It just seems easier. I've never heard anybody say that you have an advantage.
You do.
I love that. Yeah.
That poor lady has to watch ESPN. She has to act like she cares when he talks about fixing his transmission. We don't have to deal with that shit. Let's just be nice. Let's have fun. We like a lot of the same things. It's beautiful.
So when you're fixing your transmission, Ty actually does care because he's a man.
Well, neither one of us give a shit about transmissions.
Right.
We hire somebody to do it while we watch Drag Race and we have such a good time.
Yes.
Pairing, you know what I'm saying?
There are manuals on everything out there. How to be a drag queen, how to dance, and how to teach and all the things. But we have no manual for how to find and keep a gay man. And this is kind of that manual.
We're making it, honey.
We are.
We're doing the Lord's work out here.
And this is probably going to be the most information podcast that we have because I'm guessing that we're going to let ourselves tell our stories and talk about the Whitney Houston movie.
Oh, broke my heart. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So Matt, just so listeners know about your life, tell us when you met Ty, what was that like? How did you know? You're engaged to be married. So how did that all pan out? Was it what you expected? The kind of guy you expected? What happened?
It's so funny. There are a lot of things into that. So when I had met Ty, I had been separated. I wasn't even legally divorced yet, but I've been separated for about a year. I was not in the best place. I was dating quite a bit. I had my own house, but I was still, I was still very much emotionally in bandages and in a lot of therapy and trying to get used to this new life, get used to being a single parent, all those things. So when I met him, he was on a similar path, but I really didn't meet him with the intention of dating him. So we had a really good mutual friend who lives out of state who randomly called me one day and said, hey, there's this guy named Ty Wisson in Indy and you guys have the same story. You should probably meet and at least be support to each other.
Oh, I didn't realize you didn't know him.
No, I had never met him.
Yeah.
So we met for coffee one day and he was going through a divorce. I was almost done with mine and we were both out. So I thought, this is somebody I need to connect with and we need to support each other at the very least. So we met and I was just really taken. So my type typically has been, call me a narcissist, but I like dudes that look like me. I like thicker German boys, blonde hair. I like people that look like me. I don't know why. And he came in, he's an otter who knew I liked daughters. He came in, this dark haired boy, tall, slim. Thought he was very cute, but my mind just wasn't in that space, you know?
Yeah.
So we met but I was just immediately taken with how smart he was, how funny he was. Ty is an incredible communicator. When you're with Ty, you feel like you're the only person in the world. He's just like a very intimate, loving person. He's a very special soul.
Yeah,
you know?
he is.
And I was just knocked over by just how special he was as a person, you know?
Yeah.
But I was like, I sat down and I go, I don't ever want to get married again. I don't even know if I want a boyfriend, and I sure as hell ain't trying to take care of nobody's kids, because I have three of my own.
Oh, you did. You were saying you didn't want to get married again.
The very first time we met.
Can you hear that siren?
I can.
It's part of living downtown, darling.
It is. Mm-hmm. No, he sits down and he's like, oh, my heart longs for a husband and a family. It's what I've always dreamed of. And I was like, ugh. So, I mean, that almost kiboshed it in the beginning, because I couldn't even imagine like being on that page with where he was. But
he wasn't an interest of yours.
At that point, no, for a variety of reasons, but that was a big one of them, frankly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm going to support this guy. We're going to be in each other's new community. We were both rebuilding our lives. And so we, started to spend time together over the next few months. You were a part of that, Matt, when you lived back in Indy still. And we just, over time, I just continued to be surprised at how I felt when I got to know him more. When I think of my non-negotiables, I wrote them down literally years ago when we were talking about this. Matt's hilarious. I dug them up this week. But you're like, you don't get 10, you get a handful. And mine
10 means you're getting real picky. Like he has to have hair or.
Yeah. 10 means you need to get over yourself. You're not ordering a Ken doll. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Come on, girl.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can do it however you want. But if you got 10, you're doing this. You're narrowing the margin on what you can find.
Exactly. So mine are, the first one of mine was peaceful, kind, sweet. I'm an Enneagram 8. I'm a commander. I can be kind of a lot. I like a boy who's sweet as pie, evens me out, mellows me out. You know what I'm saying?
Because you're not sweet as pie.
I can be, but you said she's a truth teller. Sojourner truth teller, honey. And so I knew that I needed somebody that was going to like even me out a little bit. So peaceful, kind, sweet. Mm-hmm. Ty West is sweet as pie. I mean, the nicest boy you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
Hardworking. That boy can work his ass off. He rebuilt a career. I wanted somebody that was into the arts, music, design like I am. I mean, that shouldn't be a tall order with the gays, but harder than you'd think. We're both kind of nerding. We nerd out on interior design and fashion. We were on the same page with that kind of stuff.
Obviously,
I wanted someone.
Look at that background.
I mean, look at the office.
It's beautiful.
This old thing. She just, put this together for your viewing pleasure. I wanted someone that loves sex because I had a lot of time to make up for, and I wanted someone with a high sex drive. Okay, practical, brass tacks. And also somebody that was down with the fact that I had kids, wasn't intimidated by that, which is also harder to find than you'd think.
Yeah.
And all those things were solidly in place with him. Plus, when I was with him, I felt peaceful and happy. He made me laugh. I felt special. And I just fell in love with him. I would say after 6 months, I was like, oh my God, I love him. I know what romantic love feels like now. Feels like this.
Yeah.
And I deeply love him. And I was shocked,
Yeah.
And now almost 3 years later, we're going to get married. And I feel completely in integrity with myself, at peace in my own mind and body. And I'm excited for the future. And otters are my type, turns out.
And I want to ask you about one thing. First of all, I love that story. I love your story because I was with you when you and Ty first started hanging out, and you were kind of like, he's not really my type. I'm not really sure if I'm interested or whatever. And then it was like, every time I'd have a conversation with you, it's like you were telling yourself that again. You kept saying it. And I was like, well, you seem to be spending a lot of time with this boy. So I don't know what is happening or what is changing.
You'd be like, you seemed like you tied up a lot.
Right.
And I was, honey. Oh, Lord. Yeah.
But I'm curious about the hardworking thing. where is that non-negotiable? Not where does it come from, but tell me about how it's easy with non-negotiables to feel like that doesn't make sense. Like you are an 8, so you're like, I don't feel bad about thinking that at all. But sometimes people like me think, well, I shouldn't expect that, or I shouldn't expect this, or I shouldn't expect the other. But tell me how you arrive at that hardworking and you're fine with it.
A couple of things. So, I grew up a pastor's kid and we never had any money. So, when I finally got educated and pursued a career and had a life that was very different than how I grew up, I really valued the work that it took to get there. Yeah. So for me, it was less about how much money you make. And it was more about, I am a hardworking person in the sense that I get up every day and I do something excellent. I do something to the best of my ability. And I have made a life for myself that I don't need your help to support, Yeah. I didn't want to be sugar daddy or be with somebody that wasn't able to hold their own weight on their own. Had nothing to do with how much they made, just them being a productive person that was strong without me. They didn't need me. Sure. They just chose to be with me because they wanted to. That was an important value for me. Yeah. A lot of the younger guys I dated early on were like, "Ooh, daddy got a job. Daddy driving a Mercedes." And I was like, "Nah, we're not doing that."
Well, you already know I had a problem with that because when I came out, I don't know what it was, but initially I was in a relationship for 3.5 years. That when that broke up, I started dating lots of people. And even the person that I was in the relationship with was 16 years younger than me. And then I started dating all these men that were at least that young. Mm-hmm. I think my type was, I think I was making up for lost time too. And I think I just saw those years or something. I was attracted to those years that I missed or something. I don't know what the hell it was, but whatever.
I'm sure that was part of it. Yeah.
Oh, I was like putting a cutoff of 32, and here I was 50, And I did it. But I remember.
We had a few discussions about
that. Oh, yes, we did. We had plenty of discussions where you're like, honey, let me tell you, yes, he is handsome. And yes, he is fun. And also he lives in his mother's basement, and I was like, he's trying to get something started. And you were just like not having any of it. It was good for me. Yeah. Because it was against one of my non-negotiables. Listen, I haven't been home living with my mother since I left high school and went to college.
Real. As it should be, honey. But he looks like Eric Bana. Move on. We cannot. That's not enough.
It was not enough.
But I loved that moment for you. It was still fun.
It was. And I was trying to figure it out. But what I found was these different stages of life. Somebody that was so far, and we can talk about that at another time too, about that age demographic of 73-year-olds dating 19-year-olds. Mm-hmm. And listen, everything we say here, we've said we're not gurus. Knock yourself out and do whatever it is that you want to do. Yeah. But as always, it is good to, at some point, stop and
we've at least been out in these streets testing this shit. We've done that. Yeah. I would say the same. I dated some boys in their 20s and it took me, I had a no one under 29 rule in about 2 months because they'd be like, oh my God, I'm in love with you. No. Like, and you don't know my music references and we're on different planets, but you're cute. And this has been fun, and a lot of people are not mature enough to be like, there's not enough substance here for this to have legs and be a long-term relationship. He's just hot and this is fun, and had to get past that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Listen, my husband now is 2.5 years older than me. I'm 52. He's 54, which, in gay years is 100,000 years old. That was something that I didn't realize when I came out. I was like, you don't ask anybody their age. I remember when I realized I'm just asking people how old they are. And people were like,
no. You never ask offended. A lady your age. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't realize what that meant.
Says the beautiful boy who's never looked her age. But yes, I get what you're saying.
I'm doing my best. But at any rate, my non-negotiables, I think, were interesting in that I like a kind face. I don't need you to be buff and ripped, but I like a nice face because I'm going to be looking at it and I'm going to be talking at it and it's going to be talking to me. And it's just something I like. And I also wanted somebody somewhere closer to my age range because
yes, honey,
of my kids. And it just felt like a more right thing for me. And then another one was, and I had it right on my bio on the apps, which again, something else we're going to talk about, profiles and how you present yourself. Mine said, looking for a peaceful person. Oh. I wanted a peaceful person because my story is I grew up in chaos, and I do not do well in chaos. I didn't want chaos. I wanted a peaceful man. And so
that statement alone sets your profile way apart, because only grown boys are going to say stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm surprised when I see profiles where somebody was like, I like somebody who likes to buy me things. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I mean, you do you, but don't come crying to me later with, I can't find anybody that's like, you just told everyone who you are right there.
Yes.
And if that's the life you want, you have fun.
I ain't saying she a gold digger, but she sure ain't messing with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's a thing. Yeah.
I know. I'm going to be so judgy in this podcast. I can already tell.
It's constructive judgy.
Yes. It's bitchy wisdom.
It's bitchy
for the
wisdom.
Gay man looking for love in all the wrong places. Yeah. So when I found Chris, my God, I had just gone through a heartbreak of epic proportions.
You really had.
Oh my God. It was stupid. I was so annoyed with myself.
Spent a lot of time at the 126th Street couch.
I sure did. I couldn't be alone in my own house. I was sad home with my succulents and all by myself, eating those damn pizzas from Kroger and watching Will and Grace reruns. Oh, I was sad and lonely, and I picked myself up and worked real hard to get over it and did a bunch of dating, and the dating apps, my God, I thought they were just going to kill me. They were awful and wonderful because you meet people, and I met some nice people. But Chris came along, was going through a divorce, same story as mine, same story as yours, and had never been with a man.
Which is just really something.
I know.
You helped him along.
I did. Well, and when we met on my 50th birthday at Patachou in Indianapolis, nice little cafe bistro. And I was not interested in that man. Zero. He was going through a divorce, and I was like, I can't be bothered with all that trouble. No, but. And
I was like, pay attention.
Yes. Oh, yes. Well,
I was like, this daddy needs to be moved to the front of the line, honey.
The only reason we are together, truthfully, because I was sitting on. You were sitting on my
poof dogging this man. And I was like, honey.
I wasn't dogging the man. I was just, we were going through my Tinder profile, swiping. And listen, my default swipe was left. I'm not interested because I was in a mood and I was just tired of all of it. So everyone just got no's.
Yes.
And then he came up, you had my phone. He came up and you showed me, and I said, swipe left. And you said, look at him.
I was like,
he's good looking. He's your age, which was a problem for me because I liked him 30.
You said it, not me. Yes.
30 and dirty. And I remember saying, he looks like a talk show host.
And I was like, is that a bad thing? He's handsome. I just get good vibes from his face. I did.
And you swiped right on him and it said, it's a match or whatever. So then he and I started talking. But when we met, I knew he was going through a divorce, going through the process of coming out and all that. And I was like, no, honey, but yes, I will meet with you because I told you I'm a 2, I'm a helper, I'm a giver. So I was like, let me meet with this boy and see if we can't walk him through this process. I've done this journey and it's complicated and you need community.
Absolutely.
And we talked and had a great conversation for about 3.5 hours. Now, if he was in here right now and I said, were you interested in me then? He'd say yes. 100% I was interested. And I was like, not. Like I left him and I was like, oh, he's good looking. But he did a lot of listening. He asked a lot of questions. I didn't know the side of him that he's so fun. And so easy to be around. And that to me, I wanted a boy that was easy.
Yeah.
And we started FaceTiming and I got to see all that side of him. And it was 4 days. And I was like, oh shit, I can't deal with heartbreak again. I don't know if I can, but he kept pursuing and pursuing.
He did. We drove through a snowstorm.
Yes, he did.
Okay. He was coming back for more.
He did. He was on his way. We had been FaceTiming for a few days and he had been out of town on business and he was coming back through, said, I'm coming back through on my way home, which it was not on his way home at all. And I knew what that meant. I was like, oh, he wants to come to my house.
He was, okay. That was a little forward.
I was like, oh, shit.
Here he is. And then you were off to the races. I think like literally 2 or 3 weeks later, I had that Christmas party and y'all showed up. And I was like, oh, shit, these boys this is a full-blown thing.
It went quick. We were engaged in just under 3 months and married in less than 9.
Lesbians.
Here we are. Did you say lesbians?
Yes.
We were a couple of U-Haul lesbians.
You were U-Haul lesbians.
I'll tell you what, it was one of those things where we literally just knew.
Yeah.
And it took my heart a little catching up, but I was like, I'm looking at my non-negotiables list.
Yeah.
And here he is. And one of the things that really validated it for me is that he was introducing me to all of his family and all of his friends. He was not hiding anything. And every message I got from every one of those people was, he's amazing.
Absolutely.
He's an amazing guy. And he is. He's the best guy I know in the whole world.
Amazing guy.
He and Ty,
I tell you what, we both got
good.
Peaches. We both got easy, lovely, sweet boys.
Yes.
Yes. I don't know if I deserve mine, but I'll take him.
Yes. And some people, here's the thing with the non-negotiables, that may not be in your list. You might be like, I don't mind a little complicated.
Maybe you're the sweet one and you need a little spice. That's okay.
Totally.
They say there's a rock and a kite, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But here's what we don't want. Crazy.
We don't want crazy. No two kites.
And we don't want effed up. This shit is built on trust, commitment, intimacy.
Absolutely.
Not infidelity. Can't trust. I'm going out with my friends and then there's cheating and all of that. One of the things, Matt, that drove me crazy about getting into the gay community was that all of these guys, even really smart ones and really mature ones, were like, oh, that's just part of it. Cheating is just part of it. And I'm like, no.
Yeah. I think if you decide it's part of it, it is. But yeah, totally.
And if that's what keeps happening to you and you cannot seem to be faithful, what is leading you there?
Yeah.
Because there's a path. That didn't just happen. You didn't just stumble over something and fall into bed with a naked man.
Absolutely.
There were decisions.
There were steps along the road.
Yeah.
I think that comes back to, and again, not to oversimplify it, but I just think it comes back to there's something there that you're self-medicating, there's something there that you're seeking that is unresolved. And that's why we talk all the time about how, as I said earlier, there's gays over 30 have been through stuff. You've dealt with it in therapy. You've moved forward past your trauma. You've healed enough to be available to somebody else, to really give yourself to somebody else and also receive someone else's love as well. Or you haven't. And there's all these, most of the time chaotic ways that you seek joy, fulfillment, feeling, whatever, And I think more often than not, again, not to oversimplify it, it's really, it's tied to something like that. If you really haven't done a deep dive over what you've been through and healed from it,
Yeah. You cannot, I was just thinking, you cannot be relationally mature and remain emotionally immature as a person.
Absolutely.
You can't. If you're going, a huge part of finding and keeping a gay man and assuming that that's going to be a good relationship is knowing that you've done your work and that there is a level of emotional maturity there. Now, if you're in your, and a huge part of this too, for me, Matt, is guys in their 20s. That's who I hope that we can reach and be able to communicate with, because there are those guys, many of those guys that are being led by people who are saying, oh no, this is how the community is.
Exactly.
And I'm here to say, no. You get to have a good life. You get to grow old with somebody if that's what you want, and have somebody that you can trust, that you have faith in, that makes you happy and that you make happy.
Well, we're laughing because we're having a little soiree this evening at our house, and we've got a pretty good group of gay friends, and they all are like, these two, they're so lovey-dovey. They're getting married. She believes in love. Wonderful. But they're all like, give it 10 years, and you'll be looking for a third. Give it 2 years and you'll open things up. Or, they all just have come to believe that what we have is not maybe not necessarily real, but not sustainable. Yeah. And why? Because that's prevalent messaging in our community. We've given up hope that exists, but it really does if you want it,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we're going to talk about some of that too with open relationships. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah. Does it really work for anyone?
Yeah. Did you see the movie Bros?
I did.
I thought that was one of the most interesting parts when they opened up that relationship. And then one of them, Billy Eichner, was just sitting there staring at him, his boyfriend, having basically macking on that other boy.
Yeah.
And was just staring at him, and you could just see the disdain in his face.
He was like, nah.
I'm not telling you what. And then was very clear at articulating that thing that I said I was okay with. We tried it. I'm not down with that.
Yeah. I was shocked they put that in the movie. Frankly.
Me too. I loved that they put it in there because these two boys were realizing, I think we may have something special here. Yeah. I don't know if I want to soil it with this kind of thing and do what we have always done.
Totally.
Is it worth it?
Is it worth it?
Like if you've got something real good, do you want to jeopardize that and fuck it up?
I mean, if I had Billy Eichner's daddy in that movie, I would be putting a pen around him. So, I was on board with that decision.
We just watched it like 3 days ago. And I was like, this is awesome. All right. Well, I can't wait to get into more specific issues and talk and just tackle them one at a time.
We're going to get into the weeds with the children here and help them find a way.
1, 2, 3, 4.
That's it for us today. For more bitchy wisdom, follow How to Find and Keep a Gay Man on Instagram and TikTok at, you guessed it, How to Find and Keep a Gay Man. And until we meet again, get a therapist, don't be an asshole, protect yourself, call your mom, and remember that you deserve a meaningful love. Bye.